We're back.
We're back. We're back in the game.
Yeah.
Here to record another episode of a Cadaver file.
Cadaver files.
So, I guess we'll just pull the trigger and get started and talk about some really awful things.
You didn't put our intro on here.
Well, I figured we'd memorized it by now.
Welcome, Cadaver crew.
Get your dark little minds right and settle in.
I'm Sam.
And I'm B. And this is the Cadaver's Files.
There we go.
See? We're practically experts.
Wow.
Just kidding. We're flying by the seat of our pants constantly. Okay, so in our main episode this week, we talked about lobotomies and how they're not used anymore because they are shitty and awful.
Yeah.
Right? And so we mentioned a dude, I don't know if you remember, one of the main characters in the lobotomy story named Walter Freeman. You remember who this shitbag is?
Show do.
Right. He's the creator of the transorbital lobotomy. And
the ice pick, if you will.
Yes. The lovely ice pick lobotomy. Let's just take a step back and remember who this douchebag is. He was determined to conduct lobotomies on a large scale as an outpatient procedure that could be done in any office at any institution.
Anywhere.
You can do it anywhere.
Yeah.
You can do it
in the comfort of your own home.
Without sterile procedure or anything.
Yeah. After eating a sandwich and without washing your hands.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. He was on a mission to get patients out of asylums and back home by taming them through severing their neural connections.
Get them back home and ready to do the work.
Right.
Yes.
Put them back in the workforce. So here's some not so fun facts about this guy. And to give us a little reminder from last episode. Freeman began crisscrossing the country in a Winnebago camper christened the Lobotomobile.
That's an awful name.
That was bad, right?
Bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So he basically took this camper from coast to coast, teaching people how to do the transorbital lobotomy, doing them himself, giving people basically the go-ahead to do them wherever. In an office, in an institution, at home. Wherever, right?
Yeah.
So the Lobotomobile traveled the country in order to demonstrate these procedures. As you remember, before transorbital, they used to do burr holes and then insert the tool, either a knife or a wire, in order to sever the connections. So those procedures had to be done in surgical rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And so a institution had to have the surgical rooms in order to perform lobotomies. But now with this procedure, he was basically saying, you don't just throw them in the chair.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Poke it through their eye. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
Right? And so this is the kind of guy we're talking about when we get into some of the really horrific cases that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. So all of these people are his patients.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Also, the spectrum of disorders for which Freeman saw this as a potential treatment continued to expand. So remember, lobotomies were very much a response to schizophrenia.
And this crisis we were having.
Right. Everybody is a schizophrenic.
Yeah.
Right. And all of the women who were depressed.
Yes.
And
not participating enough at home.
You're right. And
yes.
Angry and sad, all of those things. So he even suggested the procedure to parents for the control of their problematic behaviors in their children.
And that comes back to that 12-year-old, I'm sure.
Yep. And we're going to talk more about that. He actually, another not so fun fact, he killed one patient because he wanted a picture taken during the procedure and accidentally shoved the orbitoclast too far into the patient's head.
Wow.
He said, yo, bro, take my pic.
Oh, a picture of himself doing the procedure, not even of like something inside the brain that he was interested in.
He literally was doing the procedure and then asked someone to take a picture of him while he was doing the procedure, throwing up a peace sign or something.
Of course, a peace sign.
Right, because he's so peaceful. And then accidentally shoved the orbitoclast a little too far, killing a patient.
Fun facts.
So those are your not so fun facts when it comes to Walter Freeman. Okay, the first case we're going to talk about is his first lobotomy within the United States, and we mentioned her briefly in the original episode. 63-year-old Alice Hammett was the first in the United States to receive a lobotomy. She was diagnosed with agitated depression.
What does that even mean?
Right?
Okay. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So she was a housewife, homemaker at 63. I'm guessing she was sad, bitter, and then irritable,
Yeah.
agitated. And here is a quote that Freeman had to say about Alice.
Oh boy.
Mentally prepare yourself.
Oh boy.
She was a master at bitching
Oh.
and really led her husband a dog's life. She worried if he was a few minutes late in coming home from the office and raised the roof when things did not suit her. She was a typical, insecure, rigid, emotional, claustrophobic individual throughout her mature existence.
What a way to describe a woman.
So basically, he's a sexist asshole.
Yes. We've already established that.
Right.
That's okay.
Yeah. And it's important to notice his verbiage towards women, especially because a majority of the people who received lobotomies were women.
Were women. Of course they were.
Yeah. And actually, Alice, though initially agreeing to the operation, did have her concerns. The night before the operation, she attempted to withdraw her consent due to concerns about her head being shaved prior to the operation. Because remember, this is the first lobotomy. We're not at transorbital yet.
Yeah.
And so she didn't want her head to be shaved and then burr holes to be drilled into her head.
Yeah.
Naturally.
Naturally, as one does.
That would be concerning. Freeman told her, "Don't worry, girl. We're not going to shave your head."
Oh, we're not. Don't worry, girl.
Yeah. Which was a lie.
Absolutely it was.
Yeah. She continued to resist on the day of the operation and struggled while she underwent sedation and general anesthesia.
Man.
But they did it anyway. Upon waking, Hammett stated that she was, quote unquote, happy and did not mind that Freeman had shaved her head.
Right.
However, 6 days after the procedure, Hammett experienced transient language difficulties, disorientation, and agitation. But she was able to return home, so it was considered a success. Right? As long as they can go home, it's a success.
It just makes me so mad because, like, what were they returning home as?
Right.
You know, oh, you were able to return home? Great. Like, but what were you returning home as? Obviously, like a shell of your former self, not like happy-go-lucky housewife ready to do things every day, you know? And so it's just so frustrating what they consider a success and blah.
Yeah, and that goes to another point is scientists and psychologists, basically everybody that was in this field currently, was using a certain type of evidence in order to justify these procedures.
Yes.
And one of those pieces of evidence was pictures that captured the changes in the patient. So if you took a picture of someone, like he did Alice, and the picture of her is she's kind of scowly, doesn't
She's
want
having
to
a rough
be there.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like she's just not for it right now.
Yeah.
And then after the first lobotomy, she has half her head shaved, you know, and she has like this.
She's waking up from anesthesia and sedation.
Right.
Like,
She has like this kind of smile where she is smiling, but it's not full. It doesn't like reach her eyes.
yeah.
I would say based on the picture. And then he takes more like 6 months after and then a year after. And you can kind of see, oh, she's smiling. She's wearing a hat. She's back in society. You know, all of those triggering visuals that people would want to see a healed person.
And we're going to talk about this more in the next episode, actually. So it's interesting that you bring this up. Like at this point in research, there's no clinical assessment tools. Like it hasn't been mandated by the FDA yet. And so it's all subjective reports on how people are doing after these surgeries. And it's very frustrating to hear.
Yeah. And there's just such a wide variety of quote unquote success or what the definition of success is, because one person could experience great results.
Yeah.
But then you do that same thing to somebody else and completely different results.
And you say same thing, but
you can't be sure.
Yeah. They're not doing microsurgery like they are nowadays where a robot's the one doing it and everything else. Like this, it's sure you might be doing the same procedure, but you're not doing it the exact same way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So,
man.
Yeah, that's Alice Hammett.
Hmm.
And then we have Rosemary Kennedy, which is probably the most famous failure for Freeman, but also unknown.
Yeah, I'd never really heard about this until recently. Yeah. Actually, I figured out where I heard it from. Is Lady Spine Doc.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she did a like a short little Instagram clip on lobotomies and this famous case, and that's the first time I ever heard about it.
Yeah, I also feel like a lot of people don't know just who Rosemary Kennedy even is.
That's fair.
And actually, she's termed and known as the Lost Kennedy.
Yeah.
Because
And that's so sad.
so sad.
Yeah.
So she was the daughter of Joseph P. Kennedy and Rose Elizabeth Fitzgerald. She was the eldest daughter of the 9 Kennedy children and sibling to John F. Kennedy. She was born September 1918 during the height of the Spanish flu epidemic.
Okay.
Which was bad.
Bad. Very bad. We'll do an episode on that.
We'll do it, yeah. More to come on that. Which killed between 20 and 50 million people worldwide. So due to high demands on healthcare during this time, the doctor who was scheduled to attend Rosemary's birth was delayed. Because it's at home.
Yeah.
She's not going to a hospital.
No.
She's giving birth at home. During the labor, Rose Kennedy, Rosemary's mother, was told to keep her legs clamped together in order to prevent the birth until the doctor arrived, even though Rosemary's head was already emerging.
Yeah, so she's actively in the birth canal. We're not pushing. We're losing oxygen at this point. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Rose followed the instructions and delayed the birth for 2 hours. Yeah.
While crowning.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah. As you can imagine, stopping the progression of the birth deprived baby Rosemary of oxygen and was the suspected cause of her later behavioral and educational difficulties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like a hypoxic brain injury. It's almost like those are a real thing. Crazy.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
Isn't that sad, though? Because as someone who has given birth,
Mhm.
you're listening to the people that are supposed to be
Your people.
your people
that
that
are like
helping
coaching you through this.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they're supposed to be certified and know what they're talking about. And so you trust them to do this and take care of you and the baby.
Yeah.
And then they're giving you advice that maybe they didn't know was wrong
Yeah.
at the time. But it's just so sad because all because of a flu epidemic. Doctor couldn't be there in time.
Mm-hmm.
And now your kid has some serious educational and behavioral issues.
But did she actually have like, okay, so it wasn't just that they said later on, like, she's a trouble to the house, so we're calling it this. Like, she actually.
No, yeah. She actually, throughout her childhood and well into her adulthood, really struggled with reading and writing. And she was sent to a dozen different schools, and her disabilities were often disguised by her family to avoid stigma being associated with defective genes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she actually did have a little trouble, dyslexia, and then anxiety, some behavioral mood disorders as well.
Okay. At least it was real and not just made up to justify the lobotomy later on.
Yeah, their justification for the lobotomy is not better, I will say.
I mean, that's fair, but.
Yeah. So even though she struggled with school subjects, got into trouble a little bit, she was actually really, really beautiful and vibrant.
Okay.
There's pictures of her and when she's like 19.
Pre-lobotomy.
And
Yeah.
she's gorgeous. Stunner.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was presented to the Queen in the UK and she was moving around in social circles and she was just always said to be this like light in the room.
Yeah.
Which is so depressing when you think about what happens next.
Yeah, exactly.
So there was one instance in her life though where she really showed progress in development. And that's when her father was appointed ambassador in the UK. The family moved to England and she was sent to the London Belmont House, which is a Montessori school in the country. She thrived in a controlled school environment. She was 19 at the time. It seemed for the first time in her whole life, she was finally developing the skills needed to live a stable life.
Yeah.
And then her father did a douchebag move.
As men do.
Not our men listeners, though.
No, y'all are great.
Her father was then pulled back to the United States because of his Nazi sympathies and his opinion that Britain would not win the war. As the ambassador to the UK.
You can't say that.
I know.
You can't say that out loud.
Right?
Yeah.
So in 1940, he pulled Rosemary with him back to the States, and this is where things became really bad for her.
Okay.
So just think about most kids love routine. You finally get it. Stability. You have friends. You're making progress in
You're actually
academics.
in a learning environment that makes sense for you.
Right. Even though you're 19, but now you have the stability you need to thrive.
Yeah.
And you're pulled from that, brought back to the States to be with your huge family.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get sent to a convent.
Oh, no.
So before she was sent to the convent, she regressed quickly. After returning to the States, she was reported to have violent seizures and temper tantrums, lashing out at those around her, even her younger siblings. There is some sources that I read where she might have also had epileptic seizures.
Okay.
And so it's unclear, but I think she was probably having seizures and having behavioral slips and suffering with all kinds of anxiety and rage and those kinds of things, and which is a lot for anybody
to go through and not have a great way of expressing their emotions and everything else because you're in this huge family.
Right.
Yeah, you just
take
think
care
about
of
like
your little siblings. Don't be a
Yes.
problem. Don't stand out because your brothers are going to become
something better than
something
you
better
are.
than you and more than you are, and carry on the political name and all this kind of stuff. And so I just think her being away in the country was really that first time where she gained that independence away from the family.
Yeah.
And that stable life and the support that she needed. And then it being ripped away just caused a huge backlash.
Yeah, absolutely. As it would in any kid, even without a hypoxic brain injury. Like,
yeah,
it would with quite literally any kid.
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard to say that she's a kid because she's an adult technically at this point. She's 19, 20. But when you have a brain injury like that and your processing isn't all the way up to speed,
Yeah.
can you really be considered?
I mean, you can be considered an adult, but that doesn't mean you're as like highly functioning as the next adult next to you at the same age.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, she's 19 and 20. Like, stop trying to control her.
Yes. That's a whole nother issue that's going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was sent to this convent where she became super defiant and would constantly,
could have guessed that.
Yeah, constantly run away. The nuns could not confine her. She would sneak out, meet people in taverns. You know, she was looking, specifically the source that I was reading, which I think has a negative connotation to it, is she was looking for male attention. And I'm like, okay, she's an adult. She's trying to get laid.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah. Also, maybe
20...
she has some daddy issues, okay?
Yeah. It doesn't matter. Like, she's trying to have a good time, go to taverns, pick up men.
She's 20 years old. What does her sex life matter to you?
Yeah, 20, 21. Get a drink.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Who cares?
Okay, we were all in college.
Yeah. Ugh.
We were all in college. We all did silly things and had to live that life.
Yeah.
So I guess the standards are different when you're a Kennedy, naturally.
I mean, yes.
So her father, Joseph, was horrified by her behavior and believed that she was jeopardizing the highly political ambitions he had for his sons.
So he obviously, father was already political, but he's pushing his political agenda onto his sons to make it like a political family at this point.
Right, because remember he got removed from being the UK ambassador. So his political career was essentially
done.
Over.
Yeah.
Based on his stupidity.
Yes.
Right.
As it should be.
Yeah. So then he was hoping that his sons would
keep the family name.
Yeah, become the next president. That was his goal. And it worked. So in November 1941, Joseph, without consulting his wife, authorized a lobotomy to be performed on Rosemary by none other than our favorite douchebag, Walter Freeman, and his partner, James Watts.
Yeah. Of course.
She was only 23 years old.
Makes me so sad. And like, now we know, her frontal lobe wasn't fully developed. So like, you know, if they would have given it another 3 to 5 years, maybe she would have calmed down a little bit. And calm down isn't even the right word, but like from her father's point of view, right? Maybe could have been something that he could have continued with, for lack of better words.
Oof.
But we just gave her a lobotomy.
Yep.
And also, you don't talk to your wife about it? What?
Isn't that insane?
That's insane. Hey, I'm going to go change our entire kid's life and her personality, but I'm not going to tell you about it first.
I get Walter Freeman was this sales guy that was telling people this is the best thing anybody could get. It's going to change their behavior. They're going to be like new. They're going to be these obedient people and be productive members of society, and was selling this whole bag of bullshit.
Yeah.
If I had to make a decision like that.
I would never. About
Right?
one of our kids?
Right.
Would never.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To know that it's so permanent and you didn't really try. I mean, I guess you sent her to multiple different schools, but you didn't really try anything else. You were like, this'll fix it.
Yeah.
One shot.
This is going to be somebody else's problem. And then it didn't work when it was somebody else's problem. So you go with this crazy procedure.
Right.
Yeah. Man, that sucks.
So Freeman drilled multiple holes into Rosemary's skull, inserted a knife, and began carving away at her frontal lobes. She was awake and terrified throughout the entire procedure until she passed out and fell unconscious.
So what's interesting is in this procedure, you're saying she was awake, but in his first procedure, he did it under anesthesia.
Mm-hmm.
So why didn't he do this one under? Oh, because he'd moved into like the comfort of your own home, all of that
Well,
stuff.
not this one. This one was still through burr holes.
So why did she not get anesthesia?
I think she was freaking out. They don't really have a good procedure.
No,
they're like making this up as they go.
Yes, they are.
And so they're like, let's keep her awake.
Yeah.
So that we can see when we sever a connection.
Yeah.
If it changes the behavior immediately.
Yeah.
Everything is experimental.
We're going to get into that a lot more in the next episode too.
So the procedure was an absolute failure. She could no longer walk or talk. Even after years of therapy, she could only use a few words and she never fully recovered the use of her limbs.
Man.
So she did not return home. And
so was it considered failed?
This one was a big failure.
Yeah.
She did not return home. She would live for the next 64 years hidden away in institutions needing full-time care.
Yeah.
She was not allowed visitors until her later life and died in 2005 at the age of 86.
That's so long to be stuck in your own head and not be able to use your limbs.
Or your words.
Or express anything and to just, that's such a miserably long life.
Yeah. 23 and you lived till you're 86.
63 years.
And 2005 was not that long ago.
No.
So she was still alive when we were alive.
Yeah.
And nobody was talking about her. Nobody cared.
I mean, but when it happened 60 years ago and the family's done such a great job keeping it under the rug, who is talking about her?
Right.
They're purposely trying to get her name forgotten.
Yeah. Which is so wrong on so many different levels. All right. That's Rosemary Kennedy. Say her name. Yeah. Remember her. The next we have is Sally Ellen UNESCO.
Okay.
So she is the first transorbital lobotomy in 1946 at age 29. She apparently had borderline personality disorders and or severe depression.
Maybe both, maybe not. I don't know.
She was a housewife and a mother who reportedly had violently suicidal tendencies. Now, I will say that her daughter, Angeline Forrester, did confirm her violent suicidal tendencies and her behavior, and that it was really frightening, and that after her lobotomy, her daughter stated that it was just peace. It was like turning a coin over that quick. So whatever he did something right.
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's hard because, that's so sad, right? That she has these violent tendencies and it sounds like she obviously has severe depression. Yeah. Severe. And we don't have any medications to give this woman. We don't have any way to help her. And I mean, you trust the daughter, right? Because that's the information that we have.
Yeah.
And so you're like, I feel bad for the family that the daughter and the rest of the family had to go through that, But still, is this what a woman deserves for severe depression?
Right. At 29.
Yeah.
So young.
And so what age did she have her daughter?
That's what I was just going to say. So I put this case in here because it's radically different than the rest.
Yeah.
Right? You have a really outspoken person that's very close to UNESCO. And she mentions this case and how much of a success it was. And so you have to ask yourself, what's different about this case? So was there something different that he did? Or was she just a different person and reacted differently to the procedure? And then this woman was 29 years old. Many mental illnesses show up later in people's lives, like in their late 20s.
Yeah.
Right? She was also a mother and may have been suffering from postpartum depression.
But my question for the kid is, if the kid says it was just peace, it was like getting the coin turned over.
What is that definition?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, does the kid was the kid old enough to actually remember what her mother was like before the lobotomy to be able to have an opinion on it. She was 29 when she got the lobotomy done. I know we were having kids earlier, but do you think a 9-year-old would be able to comment on it and say it was peace?
I mean, I guess if it was violent enough and you experienced
Yeah.
that kind of thing, that could be any age. And so it's hard to say, and I don't have a child's age at the time of the lobotomy. So I just think it's important to note that there could have been other things, it says borderline, says severe depression, but now we're so much more familiar with the things that are going on in a woman's body when it comes to giving birth.
Yeah.
Could this been a postpartum? And maybe that's why
Postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis,
anxiety, whatever it is. And that can also be scary because sometimes that can turn towards the child.
Yeah.
So there might have been a reason for treatment here. And it is really hard to know if this was a success or not. Yes, the behavior changed into manageable behavior, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Like we said earlier, there's no requirements for success.
Yep.
So basically you took someone that was violently suicidal and now they're not. And so you're saying that's a success.
But what are they now?
You don't know quality of life. You don't know functionality, emotional bandwidth, none of that.
Yeah.
Was she able to go and love her daughter in the same way or differently? Or what does that even look like? And we don't know.
No.
Because you wouldn't have been able to tell if she had not gotten the lobotomy, what would have happened.
Yeah. It's my same case with the Kennedy case.
Yeah. It's just so hard. All right. Now we have, this one is just.
I think this one's going to make me the most mad.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Okay. So we have Howard Dolly. Age 12.
12. 1, 2, 12.
1960. Was not mentally ill.
I feel like I'm about to be rage baited.
Pause for effect.
Yeah.
His stepmother wanted to change his personality, which she described.
Stepmother. Okay, we hate her already.
Which she described as defiant and, quote, daydreaming and objecting to going to bed.
God forbid a 12-year-old doesn't want to go to bed and has an imagination.
Dolly wasn't told about the operation until after he had received it. He stated, because he's still alive, and he wrote a book.
Okay, I need to read this book. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have the name of it?
It's called My Lobotomy.
My Lobotomy. Okay.
So, quote, the surgery damaged me in many ways, but it didn't fix me or turn me into a robot. So my family put me into an institution. So he basically ended up in a place he probably wouldn't have even been in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dolly claims that he always felt different, like a freak and ashamed. He lived in institution for 10 years and battled addictions until his 50s.
Of course he's battling addiction.
Yeah.
Of course he is. You had a lobotomy done when you were 12. You're not even hitting adolescence yet. You haven't had hormone surges like that yet. Anything. You have no idea what your actual personality would be like. Absolutely, you're fighting addiction.
Yeah. So I'm going to read you an excerpt from his medical records, which I found really interesting.
We'll have to put this on the Instagram page.
Yeah. So this is before the procedure. Howard is behaving much better this past week or two and really pleasant at times, so the family has had doubts about the desirability of the ongoing operation. These doubts were enhanced by the attitude of the minister and also of the aunt. But one of Mr. Dolly's cousins knew somebody who'd been operated on, and she is much better. So having received no real encouragement from other sources, Mr. Dolly has decided to go through with the operation. I asked Howard about his recollections of his own mother, and he was able to give me a few rather objective details, but he didn't go into any discussion of his attitude towards her and his desperation at losing her. He said that recently he had experience of hearing somebody in his room rather angrily talking at him. He turned on the light and there was nobody there. He doesn't remember the words, but he was very alarmed. In regard to talking to himself, he says he just talks to himself. He doesn't answer any spirit voices. He has a certain fascination with license plate numbers and also with words like spring that have a number of different meanings. I told him he was going into the hospital for some examinations. He was first afraid he might be hurt, then glad that he'd been missing school.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
All of this is so sad, but like on a 12-year-old who has no understanding of what's about to happen.
Yeah. So it goes on to explain the actual procedure of the transorbital lobotomy and them giving him electroconvulsive therapy first and then doing the lobotomy. And then when he awakens, this is the doctor's note here. When I saw him this morning, he recognized me but thought he was on Orange Street and that the day was Monday instead of Saturday. He did not know that anything particular had happened to him. He had been incontinent once during the night. He resisted efforts to get his eyes open and complained about the needles being given to him. His temperature, pulse, and respirations were quite normal, and the neurological picture was okay.
That's it.
That's it.
Wow.
So I just thought I'd put that in there because I thought it was interesting, and I feel like it's good to read that because then you can see sometimes there's no emotion in talking about a kid.
Yeah.
That's receiving a life-changing operation.
At such a young age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's still alive today. And he's a tour bus driver living in California.
Oh.
Yeah. You can find
that.
pictures of him on the internet.
Love that.
Yeah, he definitely check out his book.
Yeah, I do want to read it. Just an understanding to how far we've come and that these people, there's somebody here that's literally still alive. This isn't just an ancient practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We have one more here. Helen Mortensen, lobotomized 3 times. This is Freeman's last lobotomy, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
Yeah. Her disorder is relatively unknown. You don't really know what she had, or if she really had anything.
Anything at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freeman's last lobotomy was done February 1967 at Hendrick Memorial Hospital on Helen Mortensen, who was one of his first 10 transorbital patients in 1946. She later experienced a relapse in her psychiatric symptoms, and Freeman operated again in 1956. When Freeman performed third operation on her in 1967, she died 3 days later of an intracranial hemorrhage, and Freeman was stripped of his hospital privileges.
Finally.
As he had been doing these procedures, hospitals had slowly been stripping his privileges across the country.
Yeah.
And this was kind of the last hospital to strip him of his privileges, so he wasn't allowed to operate anymore. But severed blood vessel in the brain.
Yeah. Imagine someone would die from that.
Yeah. And it's sad because there's just not a lot of information on her. She wasn't that old either. She was born in 1915. She died in 67.
52 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that's not that old.
No.
You know? So, it's just sad. And I was telling you when I was doing some research, it's sad that there's so much information about the people who are cruel in this world and so little information on the victims who suffer from those people's cruelty.
Which is on purpose in so many ways.
Yeah. Freeman ultimately lobotomized 19 children, including a 4-year-old child.
No fucking way.
He was careless in his practice and inconsistent in results. He was selling a product that America believed they needed in order to solve the crisis of mental health, but his showmanship put many people in danger, and he essentially failed on all fronts because those that were lobotomized, many of them ended back up in the hospital. Their symptoms returned, or they couldn't live at home by themselves.
Yeah.
So they just went back into the hospital. He was not returning these people home and back into the workforce.
No, he wasn't saving the world in terms of our hospitals and institutions being overcrowded. He was making it worse.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, the medical system and healthcare system in America was also at fault because they enabled these procedures without real scientific evidence or long-term studies. We have the pictures.
Yeah.
Justification seems to work. Let's do it because we have this big problem.
Yeah.
Right. Eventually, Freeman was banned from operating from almost all hospitals, but by then, psych meds were on the scene like we talked about last episode, and he had already performed an astronomical number of lobotomies. The damage was done.
Yeah.
There are many more horrible stories from this time of lobotomies, but I just wanted to highlight these stories and say their names out loud here on this platform. So you have Alice Hammett, Rosemary Kennedy, Sally Ellen Ionesco, Howard Doley, and Helen Mortensen.
Man.
And that is our case file on lobotomies.
This was a sad one.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we're going to have a lot of happy case files.
Yeah, they're not really.
This was a rough start to the recording studio today.
Yeah, I would say I'm sorry, but this is what we do.
This is what we do, yeah. Well, with that being everything, It's time for the boring stuff. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at _cadavers_lessons. You can support us by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/the_cadavers_lessons. And remember, that's not a subscription service, just a one-time payment if you like what
Unless
we're
you want it
doing.
to be.
Unless, yeah, you can make it reoccurring. Don't let us stop you now.
Mm-hmm.
You can listen on Spotify, Amazon, and Apple. And leave a review, comment, share our podcast. We check the analytics on this thing like crazy, so it's really exciting to see it growing quickly. If you ever have an idea for an episode or a case, you can DM us on social media, and we'll make sure to add it in. Our next episode is on electroconvulsive therapy. We have one more track in this current brain train, and there's lots of interesting stuff coming through that.
Also, if you have a story about a weird medical experience or you've seen some strange things, let us know. Share your story with us, and maybe we'll share it here on the show.
Yeah. And with that being said, class is dismissed.
Stay safe.
Stay curious.
And don't try this at home.
Unless you have a bone saw. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. We discuss the history of medicine, not your personal medical situation. Nothing you hear on this show should ever be taken as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Some of the information discussed may be incorrect or become outdated over time. We do our best to stay current with medical knowledge, but medicine changes quickly. Additionally, because we do not work in every specific field we discuss, there may be times when we misspeak or misinterpret information. We're all human, and we're doing our best for the podcast. Every medical case is unique, and your health decisions should always be made in consultation with your own qualified healthcare professional. If you have any questions or concerns about your health, please reach out to a licensed provider who can give you guidance based on your individual needs.